Hello, everyone. This is Tijen and Jenko. I am Master Certified Coach and Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. Today, I have Michelle Norton with me. We are going to talk about my book, Genco Method, Coaching with Precision. And this book specifically focuses on establishing the coaching agreement with precision and mastery. And before we get to the book, though, Michelle, so good to have you here. Thank you for being my partner today.
Thank you.
What would you like for our audience to know about your coaching and yourself?
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to have this conversation with you. I've been looking forward to this book for a while, so I'm happy to have a chance to discuss it with you. I am also I'm a life coach. I have my coaching LLC practice is called Fletch Coaching and Consulting. I have a small LLC, and I've worked with some individual clients. I work with also coaches, some small businesses and entrepreneurs. And it seems like I'm also doing some opening up of my practice toward healing. I'm recently a Reiki practitioner, and so I'm kind of combining that into the coaching and doing some work with mind-body medicine and that sort of thing. So hoping to have some new offerings for the fall around mind-body medicine and resilience.
Beautiful. So how the people can find you?
People can find me at my website, which is fletchinsight.com, and that's FLECHE insight.com. I also have a Facebook page, Fletch Coaching and Consulting, and I'm on LinkedIn both as Michelle Naughton and Fletch Coaching and Consulting.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if you're looking for good quality holistic approach to coaching, you can find Michelle at fletchconsulting.com.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, Michelle, what do you have for me today as we discuss the book?
Well, I have been looking forward to this, and I thought we might start with a little bit about your background. If you would just give us some background on your experience, your credentials, your what's brought you to the Genco method coaching.
Absolutely. Well, I started as an engineer, my bachelor's in electronics engineering, and I started my career designing robots. I was almost fascinated with how things come together, but come together with efficiency and harmony. And since my childhood, I also looked into human potential. What is the potential and what gets in the way of creating or achieving to that potential? So after the few years of design engineering, I got into IT and systems integration, and then I got into process and service improvement. And people think, oh, how are those relating and what's happening? Really, they do, because engineering brings things together in an efficient way to serve a purpose. And system integration then takes those one or two things and the larger space, bring them together to serve a purpose with, and then process and service excellence that I have mastery level. That was after the systems integration. They looked at the things and systems, how they can come together in efficient way, the superior delivery. And as I was doing that, I realized you can design the best process, best service, but that doesn't mean people are going to follow that. That's where I got further into, I did my master's in organizational behavior and coaching. So I got into how do you understand the people that they interact with the systems and what they decide to do with that. And that's where I got further into coaching. When I was doing the master level Lean Six Sigma expertise, I was already doing mentorship and coaching, but that's not in the style of coaching that I'm doing now, that which is much more client-centered and not directive coaching, rather client-centered coaching. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, what brought you here. So would you be willing to give us a little glimpse into the young Tijen and how your childhood sort of led you down this path?
Yeah, the young Tijen comes from a lineage of sisters on both sides of the family. Interestingly enough, that my grandmother was one of the first female teachers of the Turkish Republic. And my mother is a teacher. My father is a teacher, and my father's father was also one of the first cohort of teachers in the Turkish Republic after the Ottoman Empire's dissolving. And my sister decided to go on a teaching path, and I said, I don't want to be a teacher for some reason. And I decided to be an engineer. But having said that, there is a very significant memory that I am a highly sensitive person. And my primary school teacher might have sensed that. And I was I was the first person to read in my class. And at some point, she would ask me to, I was almost going to say coach, take the people who were kids who were highly sensitive and struggling to read outside of the classroom into the garden and gently teach them how to read. That to me is a huge responsibility, but I was doing it, and I could take those little boys, shaky hands, sweaty hands. I will just comfort them and talk to them, and they would read. And so I guess that was in my blood to comfort people and help them to get to their potential way back when. And so after so many years of not wanting to be a teacher, full around, I came back to coaching and teaching. The coaching is a very superior form of teaching for me in a way. And yeah, so.
Wow. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting to see what the young child, what in the young child ends up blooming into the adult, consciously, unconsciously, or, sometimes our intentions might be for something totally different, but we come around to where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So then this brought you to coaching and teaching, and you have your own method, the Genco method for coaching and teaching. So I'm wondering then what would you say now your vision is for your coaching, for Genco coaching?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think when you ask me about my background, I forgot to mention something, a big part of me, right? Which is I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher and certified Pilates instructor. I have humongous knowledge, not only in the Western sciences and evidence-based methodologies, but also Eastern sciences and esoteric teachings. I'm also a Reiki master. And so therefore, I started to use the language recently is the whole person coaching. And I see that a lot of the evidence-based methodologies, and I'm also an assessor for International Coach Federation. I do assessments for in the academic environment. Therefore, I am exposed to a lot of coach teachings, especially being the assessor for the Coach Federation. I receive assessments around the world schools. And what I see is that the students are being taught evidence-based methods with the language that addresses only the mind. And therefore, we're leaving the huge part of human existence behind when we are coaching. And what I'm pioneering and would love further to enhance in my teachings, as you know, you're being exposed to some of those, is more whole person coaching that requires as a baseline what is being offered generally around the world as a coach education. But after that, I call it coaching beyond mastery. And my desire is to even label that as a doctor of coaching, Jenko method, and one day. That is to look into human energetics. How do you coach around that? Human somatics. How do you coach around body-centric inquiries? Additional methodologies, neurologic approaches to coaching, how they engage the human nervous system and its own autonomic responses to coaching. And so those are my vision for the Genco method. And I'd like to ask your opinion for the ones that you get a taste of. What are your thoughts in that methods and approach?
Sure. Well, first of all, I thought I might mention that the way we know each other is that I was looking for somebody, a mentor, to help me gain my International Coaching Federation certification. And so when I scanned the pages and pages of coaches and narrowed it down and looked at your website and understood that you married the evidence-based with the esoteric, then I was like, that was one of the ways that I knew. I knew it was you that I wanted to work with. And I think from the very beginning, I think I started with the monthly mentor sessions. I was able to observe these techniques in place, and it was just a whole different level. I mean, I had a very strong integrative health coach training to start things out, but this really, I mean, I witnessed it in a group, and then I've witnessed it in one-on-one sessions. Just the, I don't know, sometimes I want to call it magic. It's just a whole different level. And I know, like, as a coach who works with coaches, sometimes when I coach them, they'll say like, oh, I see what you're doing here. You're using this coaching technique. So it's kind of hard for us to get out of our own heads, and all of these different techniques, they're going to give you some way to help that client get past that, overthinking models. So my experience has been that, as experienced it as a client has been amazing, and being able to use some of these techniques with my clients have helped really, I call it up-level my coaching.
Wonderful to hear that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So shall we go on to the book?
Yes, why not?
Okay. Well, first of all, on page 6 of this long-awaited book, you write, the skills from this book can be learned by coaches to improve their effectiveness, both personally and professionally. And so first of all, I was hoping that you might address what you consider the personal impacts that a coach might gain from reading the book and understanding the method.
Yeah, I think that in the book, especially in this first of the series talking about coaching agreement, I am giving the milestones or the major components of coaching, the mastery in the major components of coaching. And one of which is to listen effectively and holistically. So when, as a human being, we learn to speak through our social upbringing, that includes a lot of unnecessary things in there when we want to express ourselves and needs. And sometimes, depending on the cultural influence, we learn to mute our needs and never say it. So once the coaches learn to listen effectively, automatically they cannot turn that on in a session and turn it off in a real life. they are going to learn to listen and communicate effectively, whether listening intuitively their children to see if they are truthful about something, watching their neurologic signs, on which I'm not getting so much in this book, but also expressing themselves to their partner or listening their partners, whether they can, as they share their needs in a muted way or unmuted way, and so on. So listening is a quite important part of the human communication and quality of life, really. And yeah, and other thing is that being able to communicate directly. That's also what I see as a mentor, that often, because a lot of the cultures teaches us to put things under the rug and don't mention anything. And I know that in Turkish culture, if you have a problem with somebody, you talk to everybody else about that, but not with the person. So you learn to be assertive in a supportive way. So those are going to impact a lot of the human quality. Having said that, just checking in with you again, what are you noticing in your life, if anything?
Well, I actually, as you were talking about that, I was just thinking about the ways that that's incorporated itself into my parenting even, and the way that I listen. I have a 16-year-old son at home, and one day as he was talking to me, he just kept picking something up. He picked up my glass, he picked up my, he was doing things, he was looking down, and I was like, if I had been, pre-understanding some of these concepts, I would have been like, look at me, look at me and tell me what you're talking about. But because I understand listening happens in a lot of other different ways, and people have styles of communication, then that helped me understand, okay, this is what is going on. This is not, not paying attention. This is his way of like focusing in on what we're talking about. So it's a given, a game changer. The coaching, I hate to say I coach all the time, but the techniques that I've learned, I think I use in every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Definitely. Yes, and when I was thinking about asking that question, I was thinking, okay, there might be two questions here, the personal and the professional, but it really sort of melds together. I'm just wondering, before we move on, if there's anything else about the personal and professional impact of the technique that we're reading about in this book that you just like to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even necessarily want to separate, right? We are human being. And so therefore I teach this when I do basic level coach training, that you are relearning how to speak in a way that neurologically we are shifting the speaking patterns, understanding patterns. The teaching coaches, at least in my trainings, the basic level, recognizing their cognitive distortions that are being taught through the culture. So that changes the way we talk as well, and where we relate to one another. That's the most important thing. And because the life is very relational, whether we are relating to our profession, relating to another human being, relating to an animal, a plant, an organization, a country, it's all about relationships. And therefore, once we understand our own patterns, our own languaging, our own expression, that is going to change how we relate to ourselves. And when we start there, right? Yeah, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, oh boy, isn't that true? Yeah, relating to ourselves and relating to others, and understanding that what we're seeing from the other person, how we relate is about us, and how they relate is about them. And just that understanding of, it's not always about me. What I'm seeing is one of the big takeaways I've had.
Absolutely, yeah. So when that it changes you.
Mhm.
And the better, that deeper the coach education is, better and deeper the self-transformation is. And you heard me say that I often say you cannot bring somebody to the levels that you haven't been to. You can try, but it often falls short. So that more we are transforming ourselves and more deeper the coach education is, deeper we support one another towards elevating entire planet.
Definitely. And then I think one last point on that I would make is that I've been amazed at the level of change that happens for, for the coach in the process of learning about, you think you're coming to these things to learn for techniques for your clients, and then you're changing in the process. And sometimes it feels like hang on to your hat because it's happening. But it's an amazing parallel.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right. Well, let's see if we can move on here. I noticed that in some of your classes and in the book, you talk about the 3 different kinds of coaching, and that helps you sort of distinguish how Genco method is different. So I was hoping you might take a moment to talk to us about the 3 kinds of coaching, and then what makes Genco method different.
Yeah, often, again, what I see as a coach educator and assessor, that most of the coach trainings are focusing on something called transactional coaching, as it's in the name, transaction. So that takes the one action, transforms into another action. So that is in the name, it's very superficial. And what it does, it's effective in changing the action to obtain a different result. And often then the coach asks series of questions to alter somebody's response to something. And yet, in my view, I'm not criticizing, I'm just giving an impact that it's like a Band-Aid to a wound. That Band-Aid doesn't heal it, it just covers it until and gives you some level of functionality. And transformational coaching, that changes the form of the behavior in a way that client understands a little bit more about their behavior and maybe their emotions about what's happening. And often what I see, that's in addition to the basic coach training that comes, some teachers teach. In my view and my teaching, that's true Genco methodology, there is also transformational coaching, but I call it a deep dive. We go deep into the surface, beyond the surface level. I mentioned earlier relationship. So we shift the client's relationship to the issue. If they are feeling powerless about something, then we look at that sensation of powerlessness towards the event that is occurring. So then it resolves the issue from the core. There is no Band-Aid. Then the changes are much more sustainable in that methodology. So because I am also Lean Six Sigma expert at the mastery level, I developed this technique to bring self-sustainability in the results. And one of the main impact of coaching that we teach, that client need not to be dependent on the coach. So I call some of these transactional approaches that you can actually retire out of coaching the same concept to the client every session, because you're going to alter this, that, and it's going to be there, that the same thought, same behavior, same distortion is going to be there. But and the business wise, maybe transcendental coaching, as we do in the Jenko methodology, is not a good business because client is going to come to you, transform in one session, and they won't need another session 6 months. So, but it is deeply transformative and enhances human life, to my view, and what I observe in my clients that way. So would you like to share your experiences in that?
My experiences, yes. Well, I was thinking about the one of the quotes that I liked on page 15 of your book, where you say the coach explores how the client relates to the world around them via their beliefs, values, inherited and learned thought patterning, and as well as their learning mechanisms. And you call that the blueprint. And so when I have experienced some coaching, and I feel like I'm notorious for this, and sometimes when we do our group mentor sessions and we do some coaching in the group, and I think, I'm just going to bring this easy little thing for the group. If we don't have any other volunteers, here's a little topic. And then every time it goes very deep. And I have a different view of maybe something that's been very deeply troubling, or just I've been really emotional about, or something that I can actually feel like a lighter shift, a shift to being a lighter person coming out of that. And so it's amazing to observe, and sometimes a little bit of a whirlwind to experience. But you're right. I mean, those changes, they don't sneak back in. You know, the previous behavior doesn't sneak back in and start. I mean, the changes are sustainable. So that's been my experience. More than once.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to say that some people may be more guarded, and this technique may not be for them. So it depends on what kind of coach you want to be, what kind of client do you have. But this is sort of my niche, and that's what I like and what I want to teach. And so people can choose, right? Options.
Right. And I'm curious, would you say that in general, if a client and a coach come together and the coach is a transcendental coach with Genco method, that client would likely select themselves back out of, they would be like, this is not for me? Or is there a way that a coach would recognize that maybe this isn't the match with a client when it comes to what their readiness is maybe for making that kind of change?
Yeah, I think that in a way, when you write your coaching bio, there is gonna be language in there indicates what kind of coach you are. That's what I do. I'm truthful. And when I execute initial coaching sessions, the coaching chemistry sessions, I also tell the client that I do deeply transformative coaching. How do you feel about that? How much room do you have for that? And sometimes people don't understand that concept, and they are guarded, and they are highly sensitive beings, and that's also fine. That we can prime them for the change. We don't need to take them in the first session to all the way to the depth. And sometimes I tell in a session, this technique might get us deeper. How do you feel about that? And maybe client is going to go under the table for a second. Come out.
They may or may not come back up.
But then we just laugh and we cry together and we transform together. So it's all fine. And I recommend coaches to be truthful and really very clear about what their style is and how they're going to be able to do the coaching, give them some idea in the beginning. Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. So would you be willing to give us maybe a situation where you can sort of just quickly demonstrate what transactional coaching, transformational coaching, transcendental coaching, like how that would look with a situation?
Yeah, so I have always used this as an easy example. That let's say I have a messy desk. I bring that into a coaching conversation. Transactional coach will be like so eager to get me fix my desk. They will ask, okay, so what do you want as a result right away? And I will say, well, I want a clean desk. And then they will say, okay, what do you need to do to clean your desk? And what is the plan? What's the strategy? That will go around in the coaching conversation. Transformational coach may ask me, okay, so what kind of behavior bring you into the that your desk being messy? Then we can find out when I grab the mail, I don't always sort it out, and then I feel upset about it. They can also get into some emotions, and then we'll figure out, okay, maybe when I bring the mail in, I'll sort it out so that it doesn't pile up, and then I don't feel upset about it. So there is some transformation, but I can still repeat the behavior when I'm tired or whatever it is that is causing me to behave that way, right?
Right.
In transcendental coaching, we'll ask, what is your relationship to seeing your the thought that says your desk is messy? Then I'm going to think, oh, well, when I see the desk is messy, I am feeling like I'm falling behind my life. You see, it's already just asking a different kind of question. You're going to go a very different place. So then it's irrelevant whether desk is messy or not. My relationship to that mess is the issue. My desk could be whatever. I can choose to feel differently about it. I can say, oh, well, I am so social that I get a whole bunch of mail, and what a popular person. Then it will be a different relationship. But here I'm taking it personally, feeling less than. So then the coaching conversation go around, what makes me think that I'm less than, I'm falling behind. We go in a very different space. How clear was that?
That was, well, that definitely made sense to me. I'm trying to think if it was somebody who wasn't as familiar with what you do, would there be questions? I don't know. I think that possibly they'll read the book
Exactly.
to get more and ask questions. And of course, they can always work with you too. So yeah, excellent. Okay, well, one of the things, and I mean, for myself, I consider myself kind of an aspiring minimalist. And so one of the things that really drew me to the Genco method and the way you teach coaching is that it removes the unnecessary in service of a more efficient and impactful coaching. For example, you don't recommend taking that first few minutes of a coaching session and doing, I call it chit chat or catching up at the beginning of the session. So I was wondering what your perspective is on this, and maybe what other ways, Genco method removes the unnecessary from a coaching session.
Yeah, so I treat the coaching as like a landscape that you're taking the prime landscape and wasting it in a way, right? If regardless of whatever the hourly rate is, that anything that is irrelevant or not going to be used in a coaching conversation, asking that and taking clients' time, in a way, it's almost unethical to me. And if the intent is to establish a rapport, that can be done by listening deeply to the client instead of asking about what did you do over the weekend and this, that. And maybe client is bringing something that they were upset about in the weekend. And then all of a sudden that's been left over there. And then the coach says, so what are you going to talk about today? And like there is a big disconnect, and that's already rupturing the relationship. To me, client needs to be, and then client will also feel obligated. How are you? Then the coach is going to talk about it. So to me, the client needs to be in the center stage at all times in a session, and coach needs to be at the sidelines and interacting with the client. And the idea most coach trainings talk about, that rapport building, I find that method to be ineffective. In Genco method, I get into teaching harmonic resonance with the client. That includes deep listening in your entire being, listening for client values, listening to clients' emotions, intuitions, things they say, things they don't say, their eye movements, their facial expression. So you can get a lot without even asking so many unnecessary things and wasting the client time. That's my view. What do you think?
Oh, it was something I did think about when I first kind of started digging into this method, because as a client, I think I had that expectation with the coach that there would be this little time for like coming together, chatting and then moving into it. Maybe not just going boom right into the big thing, but I agree that that there are ways to build rapport, and that again, I think less is more most of the time. So not spending that time when a client has paid for the session, that it should be really as focused and efficient as possible. So I agree with that. Sometimes it's difficult to when the client comes and wants to chit chat, it's like, okay, how do I move that around too? But I think also they get the picture, and I'm upfront with my clients to say, this is what you're getting, so this is how we do it. I'm doing this out of respect for you and your time and your investment in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I often start with welcome to our sessions, of the warm welcome, and what would you like to talk about? And they say, oh, I have to give you this update. And okay, good. So if they're in charge, that they want to give me update, they will, so that I don't need to ask unnecessary things. They're teaching me how to be with them. So it's more effective, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Oh, I apologize. My door's swinging open. I thought it was latched. Okay. Oh, let's see. Anything else you might say about the unnecessary that gets removed, that the Genco method kind of doesn't do, that maybe other coaching methods do? What other things might be unnecessary that you've identified and kind of done things a little differently?
Yeah, I think that once the coaches learn to holistic listening techniques and look at also they do their own self-work, it's going to eliminate a lot of unnecessary questioning, because often that coaches their own interest in the client's drama gets to us the channel E discussions, right? Channel E kind of interviews. So we need to understand and listen what's significant. So Genco method, significant words, understanding and appreciating those and incorporating, weaving them into the inquiries. It's going to eliminate a lot of unnecessary. And again, what we're talking about in this book, this is why the first book that I paid attention to, Coaching Agreement, when that is not done properly, whole session goes all over the place. I am not sure what is being discussed and where the coach and the client is going as an assessor. And therefore, because there is no clear contract, then the coach is poking at this, poking at that, client answering this, answering that. Maybe it's still helpful that client is feel like they are being heard and somebody listening to them, but there is a lot of unnecessary, I call it hallways being visited instead of precise laser movement. Yeah.
Yeah, And I was also just thinking again about, sometimes I've been that client that's brought like, I got this list of stuff and I really don't even know how it relates and I'm not even sure where to start here. But the method helped to distilling, and that's another aspect, distill down to, what's important and kind of move that way. So it's a masterful process to do it. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm glad I'm not my own coach because I'd be a challenging client. So
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. So one thing that I think this sort of leads us to is that, and one thing I think helps make the method transcendental, more transformative to transcendental, is the thing that you call the thing beneath the thing. And I've attended some training on that, and you've done some deep dive sessions on it. But could you give us an idea of what you mean by the thing beneath the thing and what the importance is of it?
Yeah, if we go back to the messy desk, right? The messy desk is the thing. And the thing beneath the thing is that how do I feel my own model, my own meaning making about that mess, or even my concept of mess.
Right.
Right. So yes, this is the blueprint level that how I function as a human being, right? But even if it means that transformational coaching gets into behavioral aspect or emotional aspect at the lesser superficial level, it still can be considered thing beneath the thing about, oh yeah, I feel this emotion when I see my desk and I behave that way because I get too tired at work or whatever. So it still gets in there, but the thing beneath the thing is that we start to see the iceberg's structure laying under the water. That's what I use in my book as an image to get coaches to relate to. You may not see how that iceberg, how deep it goes, and you may not see what the structure is. A client wouldn't know it either. Neither coach knows and nor the client, but we're like, okay, put the oxygen mask. Yeah, ready? Let's go. Let's explore however deep you want to go and figure this out. And if we run out of oxygen, we'll come back and take a break. But yeah.
Yeah, the little tip of the iceberg is the thing, and then underneath the water is all of the thing beneath the thing. And that's an interesting and good point too, that there's levels of the underneath the water thing too. So yeah, coming up for air is always a good option if you need it, for sure.
But because some of those things are intergenerational, cultural, inherited. So the deeper you go, deeper roots are some cases. So, and in some cases that we can see the trees are being uprooted, that the roots are rotten, it's easier to transform, but some cases they are going to be very strong. So yeah.
Right. Wow. I know one of the other things you write about is that sometimes we can think maybe as a coach we've gotten to the thing beneath the thing, but there's like some telltale signs about how you know when you haven't gotten to the thing beneath the thing. Would you be willing to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. What I see is, again, going back to coaches' self-work and self-care. When there is an issue that's being presented to the coach that is the coach hasn't done enough work, I call it emotional resilience, being able to see someone in pain, then the coach cannot tolerate that, then they rush into solution finding. Or coaches' self-worth and self-value is dependent on how much client accomplishes in a session. Then they get panic. Oh, I need to bring them to some kind of action to feel successful. And therefore, then they ask outcome question too soon. And when that happens, often then you will get a response from the client. Oh, I need a plan. I need a strategy. I need a list. And I'm thinking, who in this day and age going to hire the coach to get a list? Or it's, I mean, I even were coaching CEOs and I'm hearing they talk about a strategy. It doesn't make any sense. You're not paying me to do that. So what exactly is happening? So whenever you hear those three, one of those three things, that is an indication that that outcome question is asked too soon. So further explore, take a breath, and notice what's happening for you as a coach. What is pushing you to ask those questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in some sessions I've heard it asked for, like, well, I was hoping for some tips and tricks.
Yes,
that's
like, common too. Yeah. Yeah, this is not a trick show.
We're not magicians.
We are, but we're not doing that kind of trick.
A different kind of magician.
Yeah.
So in that case, then what does a coach do? They're like, okay, I know I'm being asked for a list or a strategy. So then what? I
ask, then this is the getting into deeper, right? What will having a list and a strategy do for you? Mm-hmm. It already gets you to the relational aspect. And what about the list and the strategy you haven't figured out yourself already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of get back into
this. Yeah. Put the mask on and go down. Even if you snorkel, it's okay.
That's right. Being in the water. Be in the water. Yes. Okay. So then, this is called establishing the coaching agreement with mastery. And on page 35, you call the coaching agreement the most crucial part of the coaching conversation. So will you please tell us how you define the coaching agreement and then what makes it the most crucial part?
I think we touched upon that a little bit in a few questions earlier, that we need to have an agreement to know where exactly we are going. And in the book that I give an example of, if you want to hire a contractor to renovate your kitchen, the minute you say that, they cannot come and start knocking down the walls. Maybe you want just resurfacing the cabinets, or you just want to change the appliances or whatnot. So you need to understand, what does renovation mean? How much budget do they have, and where did they want to go with it? What is their vision about it? What makes that renovation is important? Maybe if you ask enough questions, it isn't about the kitchen, that there is something in the living room. They think about that the kitchen needs to be different. So really, we need to engage and understand and come to common understanding before the work starts, really. And yes, in each session that we starting the session with, the work starts with welcoming the client to the session, but really in each session, the session agreement to the end of the session is where the real work is. Yes, we have permission to coach the client, but we don't have permission to coach the client in everything they live in their life. We need to get a specific permission to stay in that boundary and support them within that. So therefore, to me, the coaching agreement is the most crucial part, that we need to be in a common understanding so that we can walk towards whatever that desired state is.
Yes, and that also made me think about that, when you get to the thing beneath the thing, you also have a concept called the moment of Genko method, moment of first awakening. And not sure we'll get totally into that, but then that sort of starts the process of, okay, now we're getting to what the agreement is going to be, and where the session is going to go.
Yeah, because at that moment that the underlying structure of the iceberg starts to become apparent, and therefore now we can see how much and how long we're going to explore.
Right, right. Wow. Well, this has been great to kind of dig into the book and talk about some of the concepts. Before we kind of move toward wrap up, I was wondering if there was anything else about the book that I maybe haven't thought to ask you that you want to just mention before we finish today.
Sure, I just like to say that this is, I've written the book because of my students are asking me a lot that they wanted to see the concepts in an easy way to digest vessel. And as I was writing that, I realized because of my background, I had a gift that is being able to bring the art part of the coaching. Coaching is a science and art. And it is harder to create a process models for an art form. And because of my background as a mastery level Lean Six Sigma expert, I modeled a lot of things in my life in the corporate world. And I had capacity to be able to create a process for an art form to be created. So that's one of the significant things in this book, I feel. And this is a book that people can read it and then come back and look at it again as a reference. It's easy to understand. And I feel like it will, once that they get into the establishing the coaching agreement with mastery, it's going to affect the rest of the coaching conversations quality. And what are your thoughts with your experience with the book?
Oh, well, I particularly appreciated having it in one place. You know, I started taking some different trainings, and so I've been getting pieces of it. I've been seeing some of it demonstrated in the monthly mentor, but having it in one place where I can sort of track it from start to finish was really helpful for me. And I know that I've gone back to sort of put things sort of in a flow sort of way, even though the art part means that you don't exactly go in a straight line. So I definitely have appreciated it. And it's also, the examples have been helpful too, because sometimes the concepts are, when you think about holistic listening or something like that, you think, okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. But then when you think about, okay, but there's a lot more to it. And then for myself as a learner, I can gather so much at once, and then that'll sink in, and then I can go back and kind of review it. It was actually really helpful for me when I did my recording for my ICF certification. It really kind of helped me with the having the whole picture in my mind when I was doing the session. So yes,
Wonderful to hear.
Appreciated it very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And it sounds like this is one of a series. So what else have you written, and what else is maybe on the horizon for what's coming?
What I have is that it's a prior to coming to this, right? The how to engage a client to create their visioning for the entire coaching engagement. And that is also available in Amazon, that people can find it. And there is also client workbook that people can actually offer that to the clients as they move them through the stages of Genco method and visioning process. Eventually, I will train the trainer for coaches so that they can actually execute that process in the way that I am doing that. As it comes to the coaching with precision series, as I have more time in my schedule between developing courses and teaching and assessing and all that, I will write the rest of the coaching conversations for precision and mastery, how to execute the regenerative part of the coaching conversation in a transcendental, transformative way, how to execute bringing the session to the closure, creating, establishing support structures, resource structures for the client for self-sustainability, how to appreciate the client at the end. That is as also a very healing part of the coaching conversation, how to bring the session in a grand finale. So those will be part of the mastery. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm, definitely looking forward to more. And you said that that they're available on Amazon. The ones that you've already written are available on Amazon. Yes. And someone could just search Genco Coaching, or how would they?
Tijen and Jenko. They can search me as an author, that they can find all the publications in there. There is also guided meditations that people can get, and I have meditation scripts available there as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Yes. Well, I will. Yeah, I'll be awaiting the next book, and promise to try not to bug you about it. So then you've got these books in mind. You're doing some teaching. You're creating courses. So what's next for Genco Coaching as we're into the second half of 2022?
Yeah, what's next is that I'm actually running out of my own calendar year offering my courses, as you know, and some students are asking me to develop even more boutique courses to the unannounced development and all that. So what's next is that I think the Genco coaching portfolio, coaching the whole human approach, is pretty getting solid, and my intent is to further develop some of my students like you, that they become a greater candidate, is that they can actually start teaching these courses that people can actually take throughout the year, because I'm limited in how much I can offer. And there are some of the trainings are not necessarily listed, but I will start listing them, such as Jenko method, energetic approach to coaching. And yeah, so the people can find them in jenkocoaching.com under upcoming event. They subscribe to there. And then there are also additional videos and information like this one will be in our Jenko Coaching YouTube channel.
Okay. And while you're at it, would you kind of give us all the ways we can stay in touch with Genco Coaching?
Absolutely.
So go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, the website is the main tool that is subscribing to the website, but I am also on Instagram under Tijen Jenko, and the Facebook, the Genco Coaching Facebook page, the LinkedIn, they can find me as Tijen Jenko or Genco Coaching page. And yeah, those will be the ways to do it. And if they want to take a flavor, easy way to start is to come to the monthly mentor sessions to get a taste.
Yes, you can get a taste of the coaching and you can be coached.
Yes.
So thank you. Yes, and you mentioned your website. There's actually a way to sign up for is it a newsletter, or just is there a way to just sign up for updates? I remember saying that.
I don't necessarily send newsletters because I'm in a fond of pull information than a push. So if they subscribe to the website, they will get the blog updates as I publish them. And the upcoming events are part of those updates that they can receive information when they go to the website. Okay. But they can also follow us on the Facebook or LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this time and for giving us a taste and a flavor of what we might be able to expect in your book. As we finish up for today, I was just interested if you're willing to share like what's at the forefront right now for your own self-development. Coaches are constantly doing self-development. So what is it for you?
What is it for me? Thank you for that question. Is to realignment with time. Since I exited the corporate world and moved through some challenges and changes in my life, I am finding myself in a space that discord with time, because in Western world that our relationship to time is established by others. You 8 o'clock, you get up, you go to work, you do this, that. It doesn't necessarily fit in our biorhythms and bioclocks. And as we change and start honoring ourselves further and further, we're finding ourselves almost living in two time zones, the one that your body and your sensation wants to live, and the other one is being imposed upon the world around you. And I have to say that I haven't found an easier way to build the bridge between the two. I'm still learning what my rhythms are, organ clocks, and the nature, and how I relate to the nature, and so on. So that's my mastery work lately, the last few years, that in deeper levels in Greek mythology, there are different times, the cosmic time and the chronos, which is the tick-tock time. And then as you get deeper into the universe, that the time concept shifts. So I guess that keep doing deep dives, I'm finding myself in the different time zones.
Somehow I don't know that you'll ever stop doing the deep dives.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
so
much for this conversation and hosting us together, and all your beautiful questions. It's always wonderful to be with you, Michelle.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.